Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Joe Davich. I'm the Executive Director here at the Georgia Center for the Book. And on behalf of the Georgia Center for the Book and the DeKalb County Public Library, welcome to another in our continuing series of online Zoom events. This one, of course, featuring Poetry Atlanta and the debut of Mother Mary Comes to Me, a pop culture anthology. We're so pleased that you've joined us from your homes this evening, and hope that you will continue to do so throughout the many events that we'll present to you until the end of the year. We do have another event coming up this week that is a fundraiser for our DeKalb Library Foundation that features Laura Morelli and Robert Edsel, author of the famous book, The Monuments Men, and they'll be talking about art and the preservation of art and the recovery of art. So you can find that event on Eventbrite and purchase a ticket. And portion of that proceeds will not only benefit the DeKalb Library Foundation, but will also benefit the Monuments Men Foundation for the preservation of art. Of course, I would like to thank the DeKalb Library Foundation. They are the fundraising organization that pays for the Zoom account that allows us to come into your homes for these author programs. They also pay for wonderful programs throughout our library system, like 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten and our Take the Internet Home program. So we encourage you not only to look up our library foundation, but for wherever you are, see how you can support your public library systems, especially in this global pandemic. I would also like to let you know that if you'd like to purchase a copy of the book, you can do so from Karis Books and More in Decatur, Georgia. We'll post the link in the chat for you, and that way you can click and order easily from them, and they will ship it to your home. Like so many bookstores, Karis has been doing amazing things since the pandemic started with pop-up sales, mailing books to people's homes, and of course, also suggesting great books that you can order. So we would like to thank them for their participation in our event this evening as well. Just a few notes. Don't forget that at the end of the program, if you would like to ask any of the poets a question, you can do so by typing your question in the Q&A feature that for many of you may be at the top of your screen to the right. It's the little box that says Q&A, or feel free to type it in the chat. However, we do like to remind you that try to not type in the chat to distract the poets during the program, and that would be most appreciated. Right now, I would like to turn this over to the two editors of the book, Collin Kelley and Karen Head. Collin Kelley, of course, has been a wonderful friend to the Georgia Center for the Book for the many years, working on Poetry Atlanta programs for us, sitting on our advisory council. He's also an author of Render, Midnight in a Perfect World, which were poetry collections, as well as the Venus trilogy of books. He is an editor for Atlanta In Town magazine, and he will be our master of ceremonies this evening. Karen Head is, of course, another wonderful Atlanta poet. She was not only the Waffle House poet, but she is now currently Fulton County's inaugural poet laureate, and we are greatly happy for that. She's the author of Sassing, My Parish Year, and On Occasion, 4 Poets, 1 Year. We are so very pleased to have them here this evening to present to you Mother Mary Comes to Me. Collin?
Thank you so much, Joe. Thanks, Georgia Center for the Book, for having us. Karen and I are delighted to be here and to try something completely new. Of at least 20 of the contributors here tonight to read their poem. And so we've never had this many people before reading, and so it's going to be something new, but I'm glad that everyone here is watching and participating. And so this is the collection. It is officially out on November 19th from Madville Publishing. And just a little bit about it, and Karen will talk a little bit more about this at the end. But the idea for this anthology actually came from a poem that I wrote, which is also featured in the anthology. She heard me read it, and it inspired her own Mary poem. And then about 7 years ago now, we've really been working on this for a long time. About 7 years ago, we kind of came up with the idea that we should get an anthology together of Mary poems. So we got some poems together from poets that we knew, and we started pitching it to different presses, and not a single one would touch it for whatever reason. And then last year, when Notre Dame caught fire and burned, we were like, maybe we should revisit this again. And then there was also all of the African-American churches that were attacked and burned. And we thought, how can we bring attention to that? How can we raise money for that? And so we got the idea together again. We approached Madville Publishing, and Kim Davis said yes. And we are incredibly grateful to Kim and to Madville for agreeing to publish this book and being just incredibly easy to work with and making this process so smooth, not only for us as the editors, but also for all of the contributors who are included in this anthology. So what I want to do, I'm not going to tarry too long. I do want to say that if you want to support a local bookstore, you can not only can you pre-order Mother Mary Comes to Me from Madville, but you can also pre-order it from Caris Books here in Decatur, Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia. And we'll put the link for that in the chat. So if you're following along there, you can see the link, and you can also pre-order the book from Caris Books. They've been an incredible supporter of ours for so many years, and we are thrilled and always, always, always support your local independent bookstores. So we're going to jump into this, and we'll do some more. We'll talk a little more at the end. I'll let Karen's going to come in and say some things, and I'm going to introduce the poets now and tell you who's going to be reading, and then I'm not going to jump back in. They're just going to be jumping in to read and read their poem, and then we'll come back at the end. And if anyone has questions, please put them in the chat, and we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So here is our reading order for tonight as we have it. It's fluctuating a bit. We've got some poets who are not here. We're hoping they're going to come in. But we will begin with Julie Kane. We also have Stephen Rains, Cassondra Windwalker, Karen Weyent, Todd Robinson, Rupert Fike, Jennifer Clark, Rick Campbell, Lillo Way, Alice Friman, Marcene Gandolfo, Lara Gularte, Marissa McNamara, Pablo, Miguel Martinez, Deborah Hauser, Danielle Hanson, Julie Bloemeke, David Matthew Barnes, and we are hoping at the end we are going to get John Menwan, J.C. Riley, and Grace Bauer in here as well. So we will see how that all works out. Before they start, I'm going to read my poem, the poem that started this whole thing, to kind of kick us off, and then we will go to Julie Kane. And I'm looking. I don't even know what page my own poem is on. Isn't that sad? There's so many poems, and I've forgotten what page my own poem is on. But I'm going to look it up and see so I can get right to it.
58, Collin.
Thank you. Somebody help me. Okay. The Virgin Mary appears in a highway underpass. Mary pops up in the strangest places, usually as a window stain or sandwich. But yesterday she dripped down the wall of a Chicago underpass, brought the faithful running with candles and offerings, blocked traffic. I saw the pictures, couldn't see her face, saw a giant gaping vagina instead. Just failed my Rorschach test, going to hell for sure. If this is Mary, she sure gets around, recasting herself as a Holly Golightly, popping up where you least expect her, causing trouble for the locals. But why would she choose to appear in condensation, burnt toast, or ditchwater runoff? Some will say it's proof that she still dwells here, runs like an undercurrent, manifests in the mundane. I say, cut the parlor tricks, Mary. If you want a little respect, come flaming out of the sky on a thundercloud. Ride it like a magic carpet over middle America. Speak in a voice like Diana Rigg or Emma Thompson. Command attention. Instead of this sleight of hand, a stain to be cleaned with soap and water, so easily erased. And now, Julie Kane.
Thank you, Collin. You can't see, but I am wearing my Virgin Mary earrings for this occasion, and my poem is Welsh Pietà. This Mary has no composure. Her nose is lumpy. One suspects it runs. despite the magnitude of grief. Not even her hands know what pose to hold. Blame the sculptor, unskilled in the basics, the rippling of cloth. No sure-fingered Michelangelo would strip her of grace and leave her puzzled and dwarfed in that vast choreography of thunder and angels. Her son, dead and awkward on her knees, as some strange fish she must clean and serve.
I'm Stephen Rains, and this poem is called A Stain in Florida. Her image stain appeared on a glass office building at the end of '96. Mirrored panes refracting and reflecting the silhouette of Mary. A church moved into the space, parish on the first floor, a rosary factory on the second floor. 8 years later, the crowds dwindled. The rosary factory defunct. A young man, sophomore in high school, used a marksman's slingshot on the top 3 panes. Mary's glittering head shattered. Months later, he turned himself in, said the guilt ate at him, cried for hours to the police out of regret. No parent to punish him. He grew up in and out of foster homes. I think of that young man feeling unloved and unseen, standing alone in that parking lot at night, facing a stain that prompted prayers and hope, his back to the empty plastic chairs pilgrimagers would sit in for hours, the slingshot in his hand, stared up at the 60-foot image like David to Goliath. Mary was his monster, who got the love and attention he wanted, raised his slingshot and severed her head, hoping people would finally turn theirs to look at him.
Only 4 poems in and I'm already undone. I'm reading We Are All Mary from Alaska. I'm Cassondra Windwalker. It's hard to watch the mother at the manger and not grieve for her. Hard to carry joy past the open door of horror and not linger in its frame, transfixed by cruelty and its common, regular price. But every mother knows that door is there, and life forbids we block its path, bar its passage in any way. We do our best to keep those little feet far from that awful room, but the price of creation is steep, and each breath is resignation to that cost. A laughing burst of speed, a heedless glance behind, and the precious one may stumble out of reach. Some willfully charge into that darkness, and others still are snatched without a warning by cold miasmic winds that gust unchecked through that hideous, watchful, gaping door. Somewhere there are mothers untouched by that cold wind. Somewhere there are children whose feet never venture across that threshold, but I have forgotten them all. And in swaddling blankets and the blood of birth, I see only grave clothes and the stain of inhumanity.
Okay, thank you, Cassondra. My name is Karen Weyent, and I'm coming from northern Pennsylvania, a very popular state now these days. My poem actually comes right after Collin's poem in the book, and it's called To the Girl Who Sees Miracles in Receding Water. It's been 3 days, and you can still taste floodwater. Floorboards sag on front porches, halos of gnats hover over puddled patches of ground. When you walk through your backyard, the grass makes a strange sucking sound. You spend the morning with the other kids picking up debris, a rake, a bird bath, cracked wiffle balls, even a dead carp tangled in tarp torn loose from a neighbor's woodpile. You listen as the adults take inventory of what has been found and what has been lost. Your mother misses her lawn ornament, a Virgin Mary who once watched over her roses. She thinks out loud, it's gone for good. But you believe in miracles, that the boys who went camping the night before the water swelled will be found, that the government relief money will somehow find its way here. When you stand on the bank of the river, you could pass as a shepherd prophet in a blue sweatshirt hoodie for veil, wearing lip gloss that tastes faintly of root beer. If you look hard enough, you think you see her, cracked ceramic lodged under a rock. Mud softens the rigid wrinkles of her veil, darkens her fingers, her eyes, her lips, so that her face burns through water thick with the history of mill pollution and lumberyard logs. She glows in her own dark Fatima, a miracle for only the crayfish and brown trout. Thank you.
Hello, dear ones. It's an honor to be part of this holy conclave. Todd Robinson coming at you from Omaha, Nebraska. This is an agnostic praise, the Memorare. Begins with a quotation from the prayer. To you do I come, before you I stand, sinful and sorrowful. Night rattles with dogs, sulking over banishment, under power lines, thrumming from coal. The roof makes a sound like a maraca shaken by a bearded doomsayer, far from Omaha, where I eat ice cream as an indulgence for my dinner salad. The devils of the present and the devils of the past straighten their ties and scoff at my collection of paraphernalia, while those teachers with chalk in their hands write the same word 50,000 ways. Learn. My mother smokes her millionth cigarette on the other side of town, thinking grace is the musculature of a cat. Those eyes, blue as a robe, watching soap operas. Mary knows. Her piety beckons from a bathtub creche, from lava rock, from concrete. She blinks in dark. Yes, I am nostalgic for booze. A bright wind comes over us from Canada, and the pines gossip like grandmothers.
Rupert, we can't see you or hear you.
How's that?
There you go.
Sorry. Thanks, Todd. I really enjoyed that. I'm going to be reading Catholic Cemetery, Savannah. It's on page 82. Even in October, it's tropical. Spanish mosses crepe over Celtic crosses and beat up Irish flags. Their orange stripes gone pink from summer's UV. And there are Marys. Oh God, Mary after marble Mary, downcast Madonnas, Mother of God, no eye contact. The Mary over our aunt's grave, also comforting nearby rows of soldiers' headstones, rising the same 2 feet, same rounded corners. A little Flanders field, I say, but no. My cousin who grew up here says, these are the parish nuns, fallen sisters, each with 2 carved names, so many Marys. Above the years she professed, the years she died, as though the decades between birth and Christ were but an anteroom, not yet true life. And now I'm having a Thomas Gray moment. I'm walking their ranks as he did in his elegy, assigning lives, perhaps lived, perhaps not. A conceit my cousin allows only because we don't see each other that much. This Mary, I say, came from that village near Limerick where they burned Edna O'Brien's Country Girls. And Mary Catherine here never watched Saturday Night Live, but she crossed herself for days after hearing that Sinead child had ripped the Pope's picture. And didn't this Mary play a Pogues tape late at night, the sea shanty her mom used to sing? Look at her dates. She likely taught Mary Flannery O'Connor. I say they're buried so close, it's like they're holding hands, but my cousin frowns. Only an Atlanta Protestant, he says, could think such a thing. He has his own business. He's walking their rows, mumbling like Popeye, I know you're here, until, ha, found you. Sister Mary Christiana, professed 1938, died 1980. She who brought rulers down on boyhood hands, foretold misery, swung girls by pigtails. And as we stand in the wobbling heat, I keep it to myself, how they're all listening down there as one of their own gets her ass chewed out. Thank you.
Thank you for that poem, Rupert. I'm Jennifer Clark, and I'm coming to you from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Searching. Her nose drips green pepper. Small mounds of moist meat round out chin and cheeks. Mary on meatloaf. Her son is turning up in odd locations. On a clean, crumpled sock in England. In the States, he's seared himself into a stick of fish, burnt his profile into a wedge of Texas toast. Somewhere else, her snack-sized son is a Cheeto curled in prayer. She wants to lean on Joseph, tell him this is no way to save the world, but her husband is nowhere to be found. So Mary gathers up her congealed veil of holy and seeps into the whorled wooden door of the Riddle family trailer. She is closing in on her boy, every grain of her being ablaze.
I know it's me, I'm looking.
We can see you, Rick. You're good to go.
Okay, good. I guess you can hear me too then, right?
We definitely can.
That's your problem, not mine. This is a poem from when I had cancer, and as sort of a agnostic, atheist, lapsed Catholic, I didn't know what to make of all the people who were praying for me. So it's called To All Those Who Prayed for Me. Hail Mary, full of grace. It seems wrong. For years, maybe since the second, I kissed the bishop's ring on the cold steps of St. John's. I have not believed in prayer or its God. I said a few more after that day, most coerced by threat or promise of penance. Even grace, I subscribed first to the flight of a ball and the intersection of a glove deep in the gap, then the lines of a trout hovering in the eddy of the encampment river. The Lord is with thee. Those I see who touch my arm and say they've asked their God, whole congregations of Baptists or Methodists, I don't know, praying for me, a candle flickering for me, a list I'm on of those who need God's favor. Blessed art thou amongst women. I still don't believe, but I turn no one, no prayer, no whispered or chanted words away. In the midst of drought, the first rain falls and splatters, pops the thick dust. I don't believe prayer brought it. I don't believe God's watching the smoke from a votive candle with my name on it work its way to heaven, like the mother of all emails. And blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. And I am, wrapped in the love of wife and daughter. I used to say this, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners. But I didn't believe in sin either. I believe in songs. Make me an angel that flies from Montgomery seems closer to prayer. I smile and thank the faithful, thinking, it's not the first time I've crossed or bordered on hypocrisy. I believe in believing in something. As the cancer goes away and my voice returns, I tell them it must have worked, their prayers, the woodpecker in the dead loblolly, the red-tailed hawk floating the blue sky. Hail Mary, Hail Della, Holy Ohio, Holy Swanee, Ochlocny, Oscilla, Wasissa, Mother of God, Mother of my daughter, Mother of petroglyphs and dolphin rising in the morning sun, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Thanks all.
Hello, I am Lillo Way, reading to you from Seattle. Thank you, Rick, and everyone. These poems are terrific. The epigraph of this poem identifies the subject as a venerated Ecuadorian sculpture from 1734. And the title of the poem is From the Winged Virgin of Quito, the Dancing Madonna, to Bernardo de la Garda, woodcarver. You made me sweat and weep and dance away my years on the surface of this earth. You put nothing between me and it but a snake, holiest of creatures because legless, who slithers belly to belly with Mother Earth, skin intimate. I fling the blue shawl you gave me, swing my skirt, laugh faster, stomp higher, swerve and curve in a manner better suited to a Hindu goddess than a Virgin Mary. But look now, today you've carved feathers rippling from my scapula. Well, plume the serpent and wing my dancing feet. Feather my breast and sprout a pair of pinions from my hips. Give me wings that undulate heavier than a condor's, faster than a hummingbird's, more transparent than a cicada's, tinier than a firefly's. And please, angle all these wings in different and opposing directions, causing me to jig and hula, bellying my dance out of here, flying not straight up with the angels, but sideways with the dragonflies, swooping with the swallows, flitting and staggering with the fritillaries.
Alice, we're ready for you.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay. Mary at the Louvre confronts her son. Even if you begged me from beneath the cracked paint of your body, broken but beautiful as ever, I would not bring you back. You are too deeply gone and past rescue. Knowing what I know now, I tell you, even if I had not given you birth among the cows and dung, but found you later in a basket, a baby before it all began, hidden in the reeds like Moses, I would not have fished you out to fill my emptiness. No, not even for a day. nor would I have called for help, consulted the rabbi or the book, nor would I have bent to touch your face, humming a lullaby to calm you. I tell you true, instead of raking my nails across my breast, I'd have shaded my eyes against the sun to watch you float out to sea with all the grief and terror unleashed upon the world in your name still attached.
Thank you, Alice. I'm Marcene Gandolfo, and I'm here to read my poem, Fire is an Event, Not a Thing. I just want to say this is a series poem that is written in 2 different registers. Fire is an event, not a thing. At 7, I was afraid of fire. A red engine arrived in September. The fireman taught us to stop, drop, and roll. He let me wear his hat, showed pictures of burnt curtains and broken windows, movies of houses burning. Outside, a family stood in the shadows of flames. He let me pet his Dalmatian. I closed my eyes, shook my head, thought of campfire marshmallows, the old wood stove in December. An old woman offers a coin and says everything has 2 faces. That night, I taught my sister to stop, drop, and roll. I held on to my safety blanket, ready to smother flames down. I shivered when I heard the furnace light. I watched the flames rise. In dreams, I ran from bonfires. Burning trees rolled backwards. Encyclopedia Britannica states that Earth is the only planet where fire can burn. I feared ashes that surged in winter. I shook my tooth loose. I thought of play yard slides. Afraid at 5, I stood alone and watched kids giggle down. At 6, I joined in and slid to the ground. I tried to light a match without trembling. Pray for candles and quiet hands. In May, my fire prayers were answered. I walked to the altar, took the candle to the foot of Mary, said, "Sweet Mother, light the wick in me," struck a match, one small flame in the shadows of God's. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcene. I'm Lara Gularte from California, and I'm reading The White City. I wrote this poem when I was in Lisbon, and Lisbon is referred to many times as the White City for its light. Above 7 hills, the soul star shines, casts away shadow. Wind carries time around and past, raises up dust. When white freesia leans against stained glass, the Fadista sweeps heat down the boulevards. Glow seizes albascent patinas as specters buff the domed church and ethers rise up with fish eyes. The Tagus River brings home the lost ones through rack and conch, messages of salt. On the Avenida de la Libertad, people call out for Santo Antonio, discover lost things. Find the Madonna down a quiet alley. She stands on a gate, uses aquamarines to cut the air, then hymns the sky with gold thread. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Marissa McNamara, and I just want to say how honored I am to be reading tonight with so many wonderful poets about Mary. I have an affinity for Mary, definitely, especially Our Lady of Guadalupe, and you'll hear a little bit of that in here and also the Hail Mary, if you're familiar with that one. The grace of full Mary, hail. At our hour, pray for us, our muffled, whispered words slipping out of windows like smoke. Our plastic love cups in black console holders offering bent red straws. Come to us, Our Lady, vanilla car freshener of Guadalupe dangle from the rear view. Sway, it stops. I look backward with you. I see you on the skipping yellow lines. Oh, mother of waiting, of family trips unfinished, stop with us in yellow diners, anoint us with griddle grease, raise us up with plastic forks. Steel is the blessed womb from which we rise, standing to kneel at your feet, heading home past curfew to Our Lady of Perpetual Waiting. Thanks.
Thank you, Marissa. Adiós, oh Virgen de Guadalupe. A wave, a wail, an endless loop of hymn, of delirium. We laud her, this brown-skinned girl, nimble, balanced on a slip of moon, headstrong as only mujercitas her age can be. Urge her back to her celestial jefe. Go back where you're safe, chula. What are you doing here among the nopales and the men who'll take ugly advantage? Your heavenly pops will fret. Why can't you be more like that immaculate girl who dresses in creamy white and sky blue? He'll cry. No seas tan exigente, asking ese indio humilde to build you a shrine, as if picking out a shiny trinket, demanding a sign of his devotion, as if conjuring roses in winter were nothing, just like that. Don't be quick to part your cloak for any way, dropping a field of stars on which to lie for your heated entwining. You are always with us, Morenita, in spiky sun rays, your outline in handprints when your raza is pressed against walls, against our wills. Adiós, mi reina. Go find what you seek en el otro lado. Here, we will wait and hope and pray. But for now, adiós. Adiós.
Thank you, Pablo. I'm Deborah Hauser from Babylon, New York, and my poem is Hail Mary. Anonymous among women we wait, sharing a communal grief. By tacit agreement, we exchange only furtive glances, denying ourselves the comfort of direct eye contact. A sterile nurse announces my name. I follow her down a hollow hall to a stark room. I strip, lay myself bare on the sacrificial altar. This thin gown offers no protection against the chill steel table. Feet in stirrups, eyes pinned to the ceiling. A water stain contorts into the face of the Virgin Mary. My fingers ache to count the long abandoned beads of my first rosary. A gift for my communion, the tiny gold cross dangling from a string of iridescent pearls. Caressing them, I felt superior. I fell to my knees to scoop them up when they broke. Cheap plastic beads skidded across the linoleum floor in the first aid aisle of the drugstore. But Mother yanked me to my feet. Leave that junk, she hissed, pulling me along behind her to the checkout line. I try to recall the prayers I used to recite, kneeling at my bed. palms pressed tightly together. The nape of my neck glowed beneath the heat of his gaze. Hail Mary, Mother Mary comes to me. She disappears into the ceiling tile.
Hi, I'm Danielle Hanson. I'm here from Atlanta. I'm reading a poem about bad medieval art. Lemon breast of the Virgin Mary. Up near the neck, sticking out from some unperforated cloth, like some new miracle, it's shaped like a small lemon. Young Jesus reaches for lemonade or bites the rind. Mary does not seem a partial transformation to tree, like a common nymph. She never seems surprised to have given birth to an old man. She does not even seem to notice the encroaching cross appearing at the edge of the painting. She is the essence of vegetal calm, unlike her Roman counterparts, so much pleading to remain a virgin from the gods.
I'm Julie Bloemeke, and thank you, Collin and Karen. Thank you, Joe and Allie and Danielle, and thank you for all being here tonight. I'm reading a poem I have on my Lourdes medal, but I'm reading a poem inspired by a statue of the Virgin Mary in Toledo, Ohio. And if you'd like to follow along, it's on page 32. One thing you need to know, not seeing the poem on the page, there's a refrain at the end, and the spelling is M-A-R-Y, M-E-R-R-Y, M-A-R-R-Y. Statue prayer at 15. Mother, in my world, virginity is defined by loss, admission, an easy litmus. As soon as I open to confession, their touches turn from want to sister. But here I am on my knees, still in this jaded light, your static mouth jeweled in the cut of votive flame. What if I believe this is my way? That for once I have found the diadem of no as a kind of salvation, at last a place where I am heard. What if I think of your face, smiling in yes? When I whisper in the thresh of desire, what if I pray to hold, wait for the one true found? I cannot bear their eager lips, their breath heavy at the chapel of want, the way they try their hands at the altar of my legs. I soften to their kisses, yes, the rare sweetness of their words when they are without motive. Someone has painted a heart on your hand. Someone has touched you with gold. I tip my forehead to your cracked hem, hardened in its line. My knees grow numb with leaning. I whisper up to you, "Oh Mary, oh Mary, oh Mary." Is it all a trinity of trickery, a prayer of persuasion, of false faith? And still, the problem of this star crossed over my body, forever this burden we call light. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Your work is always so beautiful and powerful. This is called Satellite. My name is David Matthew Barnes. Mary, where were you when the moon split in two? Were you on the outskirts of town, your back pressed to the holy ground, face up, confusing stars for comments, but still wishing? You heard salvation before you spoke it, the rumble roaring down, slicing the fronds. What a rush! Leaves you to tremble in the quake of your youth until your virginal mind becomes hot and wild, pure. They reach for you, yet you'd rather capture the lunar swirls, hold the shattered moon, tender satellite in your praying hands. Somewhere, the tide is also broken and weeping. Listen, Joseph's been dreaming again. They want to kill your son. They want you to appear every time they need a miracle. You hear the constant desperation of faceless sinners, the haunting echo of their hungry howls calling. Thank you.
Thank you, David Matthew. And we're really excited that Grace Bauer has joined us, and she's going to read for you now. Hi, Grace.
Hi, I'm Grace Bauer, and I forgot about time zones. And my poem in this fabulous anthology is called Mary, a Confession and Complaint, and it's a persona poem. Legend shows me acquiescent. Don't believe a word. I would have ignored that angel if I could have, but he made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Even now, I blame my failing vision on those few moments of terrifying light. I was not an ambitious girl. I loved Joseph and looked forward to our marriage and children who would grow and in their time have children. Our days, I assumed, would be simple. Joseph in his shop, me in my kitchen. At night, we'd share the finer moments. I would shine beneath his hands like polished wood. It wasn't fair to ask me to bear all that pain without ever knowing pleasure. And if I could have only one child, I would have much preferred a girl. My son, though I know he loved us, was never affectionate. He moved as if his body were not his own. He had a cold, distant look in his eye. And Joseph, though he was always kind and never doubted me, could not get close to that boy. He grew more silent with the years, more sullen, and I could never bring myself to say, forget about the angel, or to confess the desire he might have found in me if he had dared to look beyond the piety, beneath the veils. Thank you.
Well, wow. Thank you, everyone. And yes, always, thank you to Joe and Allie at the Georgia Center for the Book. You guys are amazing. I would say I can't follow that, but I'm gonna read you my poem now. To close us out for the readings tonight, and stick around for question and answers. We will be taking questions and answers. So if anybody has them. My poem is called Encountering Mary Outside Lourdes, and I actually I have with me my little Lourdes. There she is, she's with us this evening. And this is based on a true story. Encountering Mary Outside Lourdes. On the road leaving Lourdes, near the shuttered discotheque My Sweet Lord, stands another ubiquitous statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary. Our Lady of the Cornstalks, I'm calling her. Nothing here is an apparition. This is Mary in the everyday, the ordinary, the kind of woman who might stop you in a parking lot as you were leaving the local salon de thé, crumbs of a croissant still on your lips, to say your tunic est très jolie, that les couleurs sont bonnes pour vous. Then, realizing you don't speak much French, gently rubs her thumb down the middle of your body like a surgeon about to do a heart bypass, outlines your figure with both hands a bit wider than you are, and says something about les boutons as she scissors with her fingers. For a moment, she stares intently into your eyes, waits for some kind of recognition. Not knowing what to say or how to say it, you can only nod. She waves as she drives away in her Citroën. This is a woman who knows everything about alteration. So thank you all. We're delighted to be launching the book with you tonight. Thank you, Joe, always with the snaps. A reminder that the book, there's a link in the chat. The book is available from our bookseller of choice this evening, which is Karis Books here in Atlanta, one of those few amazing independent bookstores left in the world. And so we ask you to think about ordering it from them if you have not already procured your copy. And if we have any questions, we will be happy to try and get answers for you.
Well, we have one here. I see. Oh, well, it just disappeared. Let's see.
Oh, I took care of that one.
Oh, thank you.
They just asked for a list of the readers, and I just had copied and pasted it myself. So.
Thank you. And I just before we do any more, I just want to say I think that went just so smoothly. I am just thrilled beyond words how smoothly that went and how fantastic everyone was. Everybody, the poems, your readings were just fantastic, and just I think strengthens Karen and I's choices for the anthology, because we had we had 300 poems to read, and so narrowing it down to this group of poets was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. And but I think we got the right mix. So yeah.
Actually, that's a thing for a question, Collin, because I know we've had this conversation at other poetry readings about killing your darlings, but with 300 poems to get it down to, what was it, 62-ish was the final count? I mean, were there some that you just had to leave on the cutting room floor to because they had this great arc too, having read the galley of this, the arc that these poems have is amazing, and seeing it come from people from all over as well, having sort of like the same experiences and be able to reflect on the same emotions and things like that Mary give us, or gives to us. How did you create that great arc? And were there any losses that just were unavoidable?
It's interesting because we said no to some amazing poems, absolutely no question about it, by some poets whose work we really respect, and we got to see some work by poets we didn't know particularly well that we we're sorry to have to say no to, but we also incorporated work from poets who we really respect, and we also incorporated work from people we had never seen poetry before from. So it's been wonderful. We sort of, the way that we put the book together was we created we had to do this remotely, the two of us working separately. We would normally have worked in the same room, and so that was a little bit of a challenge. I mean, just like tonight, I think there's no way we could have had all of these poets in Atlanta probably tonight for this reading. And so it's, kind of a good thing that we're all on Zoom. And we're going to have a few more readings like this as well. But we actually took the sections. We knew what we wanted the sections to be. After we had chosen the poems, we some themes started to emerge, and we had the themes. And then we took every other section, and each of us ordered every other section. So I ordered 3 and Collin ordered 3. And then we went back and we looked at each other's sections, and then we looked at the sections together. And, I think, I feel like there was a little bit of divine inspiration going on, but I think it was because I have never put a book together before that came together as seamlessly as this one did.
It really did. It just fell into place so quickly. And jumping back on what Karen said, I think Karen and I actually had one meeting together at her flat before the pandemic where we went over some poems where we were like debating, and so we had one meeting together for this, and the rest we did virtually and on the phone and through the pandemic. And it really, and it's also a testament to all of the poets who so quickly got their bios to us, who got their contracts back to us, who proofread their poems so quickly and allowed us to get the completed manuscript to Madville, and then who looked at the proof. And I mean, it all just went so quickly and beautifully that, you know, it's just a treat. I think I'm going to be spoiled forever now when it comes to editing a book.
Yeah.
And I love the names of the sections too, because you go from, you know, the very spiritual Ave Maria and how great thou art. You have Don't Stop Believing, and of course you end with Like a Prayer, because if you want to do a mic drop, do it with Madonna. You know, it's just, and I Am Woman, Helen Reddy, exactly. That new documentary of her is in my Netflix queue to watch. And Lori Ann also likes the ordering of the anthology, says it was a true labor of love. I'm just going back and forth between all of the little questions. So fun to hear the poems aloud and bringing the collection together. It's I have to say, it's a great collection. It's just, you know.
Well, it really did. And I think for those who came in, we mentioned it before, you know, we had started working on this anthology like 7 years ago. And we were, you know, we asked some poets that we knew to send us some poems that we could use when we were sending out the proposal. And Laurent Beausolar, who's there in the comments I just saw, who's one of our contributors also, she sent a poem, and Jericho Brown sent a poem. And so we had this great handful of poems to begin with, but we couldn't get anyone to publish it. So, you know,
yeah, so big thanks to all the poets who stuck with us through that process.
Absolutely.
You know, like Julie Kane, Grace Bauer. There are several people who sent us stuff in that early call when we were just trying to find somebody who would publish it, and have let us hold those poems with us for, you know, several years.
Yeah, it was really great. And so then last year, of course, as I said, when Notre Dame caught fire, I was actually on an airplane flying to Los Angeles to do a reading, and this ripple of voices and murmurs came through the plane, and then suddenly everyone was on their phone and everyone was watching Notre Dame in Paris burn. And I actually have this is my rosary from Notre Dame in Paris that I've had on my desk while I was doing my editing. And then also, Karen, do you want to talk a little bit more about where the money is going?
Yeah, so Collin landed actually from that flight and called me, and we were on the phone together when the spire fell, and we were both just weeping. We both have such a connection to the city of Paris, and we almost immediately turned that to, you know, we were all the attention that almost instantaneously Notre Dame in Paris was getting, you know, people wanting to send money. And we said, yeah, but, you know, there are a lot of churches in the South that have been burned down on purpose, that, you know, people haven't been rushing to send money to them. And we did some research, and we found out that there are a couple of funds. And so we're gonna donate our royalties to the fund. And if the fund is in fact, occasionally these funds close and say, you know, well, we've rebuilt the church that we needed to rebuild. If there's not anything available, then we will turn the money probably to Black Lives Matter as an alternative. So it's also a good cause if you're interested in picking up a copy. So.
And I see that we're here at 8 o'clock. So let me say, for everyone who's left here for our we're going to be reading the anthology on December 2nd with Wild and Precious Life series. And if you will follow Comes to Me Facebook page. So I encourage everyone to like the page. We will be posting all of our readings. We have a third reading that we're working on now that'll probably happen after the first of the year, in the new year. But mark your calendars for December 2nd. I believe the time is 7 o'clock, but I don't have it in front of me. It may be 8. Julie may know. Julie Bloemeke, what time does Wild and Precious Life start?
Let's see. Usually it's at 7:30, I believe.
7:30. So December 2nd, 7:30. Look on our Facebook page and you will find
we just lost
information about your of Karen.
You were gone there for just a second.
I see. Yeah, I'm getting that message that I don't have a stable internet connection. December 2nd, we're going to have a whole new set of poets reading from the anthology. We're going to try to get every poet in the book onto a reading, even the ones that are in New Zealand and Spain and Mexico. It's an international anthology. So we're going to try to get everybody on. I think that might be the first ever to get every contributor from an anthology into a reading. I think that's going to be quite a feat. So we're looking forward to that.
Excellent. I think Allie mentioned that we had a raised hand from Mariana. Maybe she wants to ask a question real quick before we close out for the evening.
Mariana, are you there?
She posted in the chat, so you might want to read that. She just
okay.
Oh, she just said congratulations to everyone.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you so much. And I see there's one in Q&A too. Oh, that's Lauren. Thank you, Lauren. Well, I think that's it.
That looks like it. Karen, Collin, thank you so very much for putting this together. It was such a great anthology, and it was such a fun reading, and it was so enjoyable to hear so many of the poets tonight. So thank you once again for all that you both do in Fulton County and the Waffle House, Atlanta In Town Magazine, and otherwise. We love you both for all of the things that you do for us in the poetry world. So thank you.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Joe, thank you so much. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.